Testing. So if you can hear my voice clearly, please kindly respond it in the chat box there, so that I know that you can hear what I'm saying now. Okay, good morning, guys and yes. So for today, this morning here, I'm going to discuss the set Nasi Kandar pre-PSPM question with you all. And in here, I will discuss in the manner that I would like to start with those questions in chapter 7 first, which is finance, mathematics of finance, which you will see later. We start with the discussion on section A, question 2, section A, question 3, section B, 6, section B, 7. We start with the last chapter first. Then followed by the next chapter I would like to discuss is chapter 6, sequence and series, which is section A, question 1, section B, question 5. Then only back to chapter 2, chapter 1. So this is the sequel that I would like to do for the discussions here for today. Okay, let us proceed with our discussions here today. Okay, so first let us go for section C, question number 2. In these questions here, what we like to discuss is that we would like to go on with these questions here. That it start with 5 years ago, a mechanic invested RM 6,600 in a bank at a simple interest rate of 7.2%. Then we want to find the amount in the account today. So this is the interpretations that we can see from the questions. This is the questions that we have. Let us try to interpret it. So first of all, 5 years ago, the mechanic invested RM 6,600 into the account. So like what you see in the timeline here, this is the amount that invested in 5 years ago. And then it grew for some times until today under the simple interest rate of 7.2%. And from 5 years ago until today, the total number of time, the duration of time that is go through is 5 years, t equals to 5. And now what we're interested to find out in this question is that we would like to find out the amount accumulated at the end of the day for today. So what is the amount here? Okay. So we realize that this is the questions that talking about simple interest, very obvious, is about simple interest. And the value we want to find out today is actually the future value, the S. Just for simplicity, we just call it S. And undergo for simple interest, and we want to find the future value S. Therefore, we will have our answer calculate based on the formula of simple interest. S equals to P times 1 plus RT. Then next, what we go on is that let us substitute all the information that we have accordingly. We are trying to find S here, and we find out that what we have is that this 6,600 is actually the principal P. So we're going to substitute the P with 6,600. The R, convert 7.2% into decimal, and the time period is 5 years. So as a result, nothing much. We just substitute accordingly, and then get our answer equals to RM8976. That's it. So this is the answer that usually we will left with if let's say we are lazy to write down in a proper sentence to explain our answer. So if we want to write the final answer in sentence, I suppose this is the answer that we have. The amount in the account today is RM8976. Okay. Next, we go on with part 2 for questions A. So the questions is still follow the statements, the general statements start from beginning about this 5 years ago, whatever. So now the difference is that in part 2, we would like to find out, instead of find out the future value, in these questions here, we want to find the number of years required if you want the amount in the account to become 11352. So what is actually happening here is that now the situation happened is that using the same timeline, initially 5 years ago, 6,600 were invested into the account. Then if you roll for some times under the interest rate 7.2% and get a future value of 11352. But the only thing that we have no idea here is that for 6600 until 11352, how many years have taken place here? So we have no idea. And we would like to find out how many years have taken place at this duration here. So once again, these questions here, based on just our interpretations, we know that this is a simple interest case. And with the reference of this timeline here, it's very clear that we start from the value 6600, which is the present value, the principal. It roll up on sometimes and get a future value of 1135. So this is our PS. And once again, we're going to use the future value formula for the simple interest, S equals to P1 plus RT. Substitute the information accordingly. Then in these calculations here, what I would like to do, the next step is that, okay, it's up to your choice that if you want to expand the 6,600 inside, or what I'm going to do, the next part here is that I would like to take these equations here. I want to divide both sides with 6,600. This is just one of the suggestion way that you can do. So in here, instead of expand the 6,000, if you want to expand, it's also all right. But in here, I do divisions. I have 11352 divided by 6600. So as a result, I have 1.72 plus 1.72 equals to 1 plus 0.072t. So this one actually I have pre-calculated. I found out that after I divide, the answer is a simple answer 1.72. That's why I go for these calculations. Of course, nothing wrong if you want to expand to get a bit larger numbers. Reach up to here. What I would like to do the next is that I want to solve out what is the t for the final answer. So the next line, what I would like to do is that first I want to get rid of the 1 here. So I'm going to minus 1 on both sides of the equations. And this will give me the result as follow. 0.072t equals to 0.72. And from there, we will go on further to solve our answer by, from this line to the next line, I would like to divide with 0.072 on both sides. And this will give me the result equals to 10. T is equals to 10. That means it requires 10 years from 6,600 to grow up become 11352. So this is the answer that we get for these questions here. By the way, if let's say you have any questions, any doubt, please kindly just ask in the chat box there, or you can just WhatsApp me directly to see to let me see what's wrong. Maybe I have wrong calculations or anything that you're not clear, or maybe after this you may see me personally for further questions. Okay. So this is the solution for question 2A. Now let us go for 2B. 2B. So according to the question, 10 years ago, RMX was invested in a bank account that pay an interest rate of 6% compounded semi-annually. If the balance in the account today is 10,836.67, find the value of X. So let us see how we interpret the questions here. So again, 10 years ago, RMX invested in a bank account So according to the timeline here, as you can see, I start to have the X invested into the account. And then what we know about these situations here, the next part, we find out that this value X here, it will undergo compound interest rate, where the rate, as you can see, is 6%, where is the J 0.06, compounded semi-annually, which tells us that 1 year compound 2 times, M equals to 2. And it will roll until today. So from 10 years until today, the duration is 10 years. You have gone through 10 years. And then finally, the last part of the sentence, it was told that the balance today is 10836.67. That means at the end of the day, this is the amount that happened to roll out. So now what we want to do is part 1. We would like to find out what is the value of X here. So as you know that these questions here, when the time we start to interpret, we see that compounded semi-annually. Somehow the keywords here tell us that this is compound interest. And based on the timeline here, it seems like very similar to just now the questions where we from a principal value or present value X, let's say call it as a P, corresponding to the formula. So in this case here, this is my present value P. And it will, after some times, it will go up, become a future value S here, which is 10836.67. So now we want to find out what is the answer for this P here. And the formula we're going to refer to the compound interest rate formula. So this is the formula that we have in simple. Just we have it as P times 1 plus I to power n, where I is the nominal rate. In this case here is the 6%, divided by the M, which is the number of times it compounded 1 year. In this case here, M is equal to 2 from the timeline we see just now. And we want to know that in the total duration there, how many times the interest is compounded. So M, if you were told that 1 year compounded for 2 times, 10 year, it will be 10 times. So it will be 2 times 10. Now, let us go for the calculations further on the answer for I and also N. So as we say just now, I is the J divided by M. So simplify 0.03. Then N is number of times the interest compounded in the year, multiply how many years go on there. So 2 times 10 equals to 20. So that is happens to be 20 times the interest compounded. And now let us substitute according to this formula in red box here for our S, P, I, and also N. Therefore, this is the result that I have. Next, what we like to do for calculation is that, okay, in here, I would like to simplify this answer here, where I have the answer as 1.03 to the power of 20. Of course, this part here, if you want to simplify it to become some decimal answer, it's all right to do so. But please make sure when the time you convert into decimal answer, please kindly take full decimal places. The full decimal places that you can see from your calculator. The reason why I want you to do so that it can maintain the accuracy of your calculation later. So that's why this part here, if you want to press calculator, it's all right. Make sure you have the full decimal places. However, in the answer scheme here today, I doesn't do so. I just have it divide in this form here, where I divide this term here on the left, 10836.67, divide by 1.03 to the power of 20, and get this form. Then only I press calculator for answer. And your answer here, I suppose, is good enough to round off up to 2 decimal places. Because X is RM is the Malaysia currency. So our Malaysia currency in daily life, mostly we just convert into 2 decimal places only. And round off to 2 decimal places, by right, it gives a 6,000. Because you can see from your calculator later, it's 6,000.00 something. But round off, it still turn out become 6,000 only if you round off to 2 decimal places. So this is how we get the answer for first part, the X value. Next. The next part. So the next part of the story, okay. So this is not just single transactions questions. The next part of the story, what is being told is that it was told that if another 3,000 is added into the same account today, find the total amount 2 years from now. So what we want to do now is that we would like to know what is the account, sorry, what is the amount that we have in the account 2 years from now. That means today until next 2 years for another 2 years durations. So let's just slowly interpret the questions that way we can see that if there's another 3,000 added into the account today, that means with the balance that we calculated previously or we obtained previously, we substitute the 3,000 inside, we added the 3,000 inside the account. And then it will go on roll for another 2 years. And we would like to know that what is the amount that we have at the end of the day of this 2 year here. And how we get our answer here done. So once again, guys and girls, in this question here, is in the same account, we are still using the case of compound interest to solve. It's not annuity for sure because annuity, it must have a regular payment. But this is another one-shot payment, 3,000 inside the account. So we shall not use annuity. We shall not involve annuity here. Annuity must have same regular payments from time to time. But so far, this question here, although have two transactions, but each of the transactions is happen to be a different value. It's not consistent in terms of time or even in terms of value. So therefore, this is not the case of the annuity. Then once again, since we know this is the case that we use compound interest, let us try to figure out for this particular case here, what is again the I and also N accordingly. So we find out that the I is still the same as just now because it's still the same account, no changes on the interest rate. So the I is still 0.06 divided by 2, we got 0.03. Whereas, how many times the interest is compounded? So guys and girls, according to the questions, 1 year it compound 2 times, and the duration happened in this transaction here happens to be 2 years. So in total, it will compound for 4 times. In our calculations here, after we identify these informations here for I and also N, we need to identify what is the S and P that we want accordingly. So first of all, based on the information just now, the P is actually the amount that we have inside the account now, which is the original 10,836.67 accumulated plus with the 3,000. This is the P value that we have. And the S value will be the value that we want to find out for these questions here. And in order to find out what is the answer here for the S, let me first try to calculate what is actually the P that we want to use for this calculation here. The P is actually we having just now the two value there, the 3,000 and the 10,000 something, we plus it up and we got this value here, 13,836.67. So this is our principal P. And after 2 years, we would like to find out what value is row 2. And this value here is the S that we want to find out. So substitute accordingly to the formula. Press calculator for answer. I suppose this is the result that I can get. 15579.29. And again, because this is the final answer, if you're lazy to write the sentence to explain what you are actually calculating, we usually just put RM in the final answer line there. And then the proper sentence, maybe I suggest that we can do something like this. The total amount 2 years from now is RM 15579.29. So this is the answer that I have for questions number 2 in section A. Okay. Okay. So, sir, since in YouTube, if let's say you miss out something, you can drag it backwards to see what is going on or refer back for the explanation. So therefore, in here, I will just go on straight forwards lah for the next part of the questions. So the next question I want to discuss is still on finance question, which on sections A, question number 3. So let's see. And this is the questions that we have. Okay. So according to the questions here, a teacher needs 18,100 to pay for down payment of a car. Then he make a loan from a bank that charge a bank discount. Okay, be careful. You see, this is the loan that based on bank discount. So whenever come to bank discount, you should always alert that you need to know very well how much you ask for, how much is asked for in this loan here, and the actual amount get will be different. And you need to determine carefully which one is which one for the case of discount. And we have a discount rate of 3.18% for a period of 18 months. A, find the simple interest equivalent to the bank discount rate. B, obtain the amount of loan made by the teachers. Okay. So in these questions here, before we try to solve A and B, let us try to understand the information on the story on top there. So let's see. First, the teacher needs 18,100. So the teacher need this amount. So by right, if he taking loan, this amount must come to his hand. He must get this amount. He must get this amount, regardless of whatever kind of interest or discount we're discussing. But bear in mind first, this amount is the amount that he must get in his hand. Important to take notes. So this is the amount that he get. Then later, what you was told is that this loan here is happen to run for 18 months with the discount rate of 3.18%. 3.18% convert into decimal 0.0318 for the periods of 18 months. So 18 months, if I convert to year, it will be T equals to 18 divided by 12. Divide by 12 because 1 year we have 12 months. Then reach up to the end of the 18 months, what we do is that we need to return the loan. We need to return the loan. The loan here is the amount that asked for. The loan here is the amount that the teacher asked for according to the case of discount. So further interpret what we know. So in this case here again, the teacher must get this amount in his hand. When the time he want to borrow from bank, as we can see that the teacher need this amount. He's not asking for this amount, but he need this amount. And if he needs this amount, he must get this amount in his hand. Then how much he should ask for in order to ensure that he get this amount. So this is something that important to take notes. So in the concept of discount, the 18100 that is obtained is actually the amount that obtained after the loan we ask minus the discount. And for sure, in this case here, we know that we're going to use some formula on discount rate to get answer. But let us further interpret the information that we need to know before we can go for further solutions. So as a result, what we happen to know is that this amount that obtained is actually the proceed for the discount, the amount that received. And then the amount that returned is the loan, which is the S in our discussion on simple discount. And the relationship between them, if notation is that we have the S is actually the loan that is we ask for, the loan that asked for, the amount that we ask from the bank. D is the discount from the loan. And lastly, proceed is actually after the loan that asked for minus discount. And this is the actual amount that we get, the loan minus discount according to the time frame here. So this is a rough idea we happen to take notes. Again, For discount rate, you must be very alert that whether the money that happens according to the question is a proceed or the S. Proceed is always the money that we want to get in hand. S is the money that we ask for. And of course, in discount, the money we ask for, you won't get it the exact value. You get less than that. Proceed, part A. Part A, actually, this question is very simple and direct. Even though without the interpretation of timeline, somehow we can try to get the answer here done. So A, we want to find a simple interest equivalent to the bank discount. So the bank discount is this one. And for the period of 18 months, just now we have seen. So in order to solve these questions here, it's a routine question. To find simple interest equivalent with discount, we just use this formula for calculations. Then now we would like to determine what is the corresponding info D and T in the questions here, as we identified just now. The D is the 3%, which is 0.0318 after we convert into decimal. The time, we want to have it in terms of year. So I would like to have 80 divided by 12. And next, we just substitute accordingly to the equations. Then we have our answer as follow. Okay. Okay. Next, before we go on further, I would like to double confirm with the answer with you all on one question there. Which is the questions regards on number 2B2. Number B2B2. Number B2B2. This value here. If you have your calculator with you, let us try to double check again. Is there any miscalculation there? And also, please kindly check, do I happen to substitute any wrong value to find the final answer as that? Because I have students that message me about this value here is calculated wrongly. Okay, so yeah, seems like the answer is calculated wrongly. So this part here is supposed to be 1557 3.29. 1557 3.29. Okay, check back. This value is supposed to be a 557 3.29. So your answers, for the chat here, Marisha asked that if you don't put 18 over 12, you put 1.5 or not? Sure, you can. If let's say it is an equivalent value and it is a definite answer, it's an exact answer, surely you can do so. Okay. Sorry for the wrong answer that I have here. Okay, go on. Next, I would like to go for question number 3. Have you done with question number 3? So question number 3, this is the answer that we have for the interest rate, 3.34%. Okay. Then we continue on the 3B there, 3B. So for 3B, now we want to find the amount of loan made by the teachers. So this is the time frame that we have just now generated out. What we want to know now is that we want to know actually what is the amount of loan that's made by teacher, or I should say that this value here, the value that the teacher asked for. Obviously, it's not 18100, and it should be some value that is greater than this. And as you know just now, this is the proceed. We want to find the loan that we asked for, which have the same value, as the amount we want to return at the end of the day. And to get the answer there, we will make use of the formula of proceed equals to S1 minus dt. Substitute information accordingly. Proceed 18100. As we have no idea, we substitute the value of D and T accordingly. And watch out for the calculation here, guys and girls. Okay. So this part here, if let's say I would like to press calculator for answer, then what you do is that make sure every single digits of your decimal displayed in your calculator, you copy back. Copy salin sampai habis. So that the accuracy of your answer will be maintained. Of course, if you want to put the answer in the calculation as 18100 over the bracket terms and then press calculator one shot, also can. But in here, this is the way that I solve. And then what I do the next is that I will divide both sides with these figures here, 0.9523. And as a result, I have my answer. S equals to RM 19006.62. And this value actually is referred to the amount of the loan made by the teachers, which is 19,006 ringgit 62 cents. So this is the answer that I have for question number 3 in section A. Okay. Next, I would like to go on. So just now we have discussed sections A, question 2 and 3 for chapter 7. Now, the next two questions about finance will be section B, 6 and 7. Please kindly pay attention on the idea here because the questions here, it is not a single transaction questions. So you need to be very careful and try to understand what is going on in the questions before you can try to solve. Maybe you need to have some drawing of diagram in order to achieve that. So next, let's just go on with the questions. Number 6 on section B. So let's see. What we have in the questions here is that you were told that a butcher save RM500 every 3 months for 4 years in a bank D that pay 4% compound quarterly. So I suppose lah, in here, maybe I need to make some minor corrections to say that 4% interest compounded quarterly. And then the account was left until the end of the 6th year, and she withdraw half of the money and invested in Bank F at 10% compounded monthly. Both banks were left untouched for another 4 years. Okay, so let us interpret the story slowly, sentence by sentence. We start with the very first part. The butcher saved 500 every 3 months for 4 years in Bank D. So this is what happening. The butcher saved RM 500 4 times a year in this Bank D here, which you refer to the red color timeline. And the regular saving here is N at the end of the 4 years. Because the questions obviously tell us that the saving is only for 4 years. After 4 years, they might have some changes. What changes is that? We will see further. But for sure, this saving here, 500 4 times a year, it ends at the end of the fourth year here. Then what happened next is that the interest compounded 4% quarterly. So that means this bank here, it gives J equals to 0.04 and M equals to 4. Continue the story, the next sentence. The account was left until the end of the 6th year. So just read until this highlighted part here. What it's trying to tell is that this amount that is accumulated from the regular payment previously, if you're left with in the account to grow interest, we doesn't touch it in this duration of the yellow arrow here. For these 2 years here, we doesn't touch it at all. We doesn't withdraw or insert extra money inside, but we just leave it inside the account to grow interest. Then further, continue the next part of the story. When she withdraw half of the amount invested in bank F. So this highlighted in blue is trying to tell you that at this point here, right after this amount accumulated, grow up interest for 2 years, what she do is that she withdraw half of the amount and invest into bank F. So this is what's going on. The amount we have here, withdraw and then invest into another bank. And I use another timeline, another parallel timeline. On the 6 years, the 50% of the money in the account is withdrawn out, which means that if let's say this account here, at this moment, I have 20,000. That means it will withdraw 10,000 to the other side. But how much is it? I have no idea until I can have further calculation. But this is a story happening. It withdraw 50% out. Then what will happen is that by right, we notice that it will also left with 50% in the account. And the story go on with which 50%? Later we will see accordingly in the questions. Then next part of the questions. So we were told that Bank F have the interest that 10% compounded monthly. So maybe at interest, maybe I want to add the word and interest to make the sentence looks sounds better. Later, whatever corrections of the questions, I will upload back to you in Google site for you to refer later together with the video recorded here. So an interest of 10% compounded monthly. So in Bank F here, interest rate J is 0.1, compounded every month, 1 year compounded 12 times. So as a result, what happened next is that both accounts were left untouched for another 4 years. That means this account, no more transaction, no more in and out money all the way until the end of 10 years, because we want to have another 4 years. We want to have another 4 years. So this amount will roll all the way and at the end of 10 years. So this is a full story that we happens interpreted. And now let us solve our questions for part A. Find the amount of the account in Bank D at the end of the 10 years. So in Bank D, I would like to know at the end of 10 years, how much I have this money here. So guys and girls, in this question here, I suggest that we do the calculation slowly, part by part. As a beginner, let us try to do the calculation part by part. I suggest that maybe we start the calculation with, we try to see at the cutting point of 4 year, on the 4th year, at the end of 4th year, how much is accumulated. Then from 4th year to the 6th year, how much is accumulated. Then finally go to the 10 years, slowly accordingly. So start with at the end of the 4th year, what we happen to see is that on this 4-year period here, we have a regular payment of 500 4 times in a year. And this regular payment in a compound interest rate account, it will happens to relate with annuity. And the annuity that related here is the future value annuity, the SN. And in order to get the answer here, let me use the SN formula, and we try to find the answer accordingly. So first of all, according to the info I have, if I want to find out the N value at the end of 4 years, I'm actually having my SN at the end of the day. I'm looking for SN according to this formula here. The value at the end of the day is the SN. And what is the R? The regular payment R is 500. The I, it will be the interest rate J divided by M. And as a result, these are the information that we have. The R value, the I value, and the N value. N value, we notice that the interest compounded 4 times a year. Compounded 4 times a year. And in 4 years, it compound 16 times, 4 times. 4 times 4, total is 16. Therefore, substitute accordingly to the SN formula. This is the initial value that I have in substitutions. That's the calculator. I have 8623.93. So this is the answer that we have, the amount that accumulated at the end of the 4 years. And this amount here, if you realize, I doesn't put any RM sign there for the unit because it's not yet final answer. So tak letak RM pun tak apa. Then this is the answer that we get for the end of the 4th year. Jadi kita close case sudahlah untuk kawasan yang saya tutup gray here. So we know at the end of 4 years, I have 8623.93. Then next, what I concern is that I want to continue from end of 4th year all the way go until end of 6 years. What happened to changes to the account that accumulated just now, the 8623.93 that we calculate for annuity, the C. So we want to calculate the amount at the end of 6 years, and we begin the calculation that is before withdrawal, the value that before withdrawal. So in here, maybe I need to write extra notes here. This is before withdrawal. Before withdrawal. Okay, very bad handwriting here. So in here, what happened in the transaction is that before the withdrawal, there's some value that accumulated. From 8623.93 until the value accumulated here, it is just one single transactions, and we let it roll, just one single amount, or we say just one single transactions. We let it roll all the way until the end of the 6 years. And therefore, in this case here, this is actually just referred to a case of compound interest. where we have S equals to P 1 plus R, 1 plus I to the power of N will somehow help us to do the calculation. Where what I want to know is that the future value of 8623.93 here, by using compound interest, I'm actually looking for the S inside this formula here. The P happens to be the N value, or I should say the future value at the end of the 4 years. Interest rate, it just follow back the same rate that we have according to the bank D, because there's no mentions of change interest rate. And then how long is the durations I need to consider is that from end of 4th year to end of 6th year, you have the durations of 2 years. So in here, I have 2 years. So gather the informations. I find out that this is the principal, the present value. I want to find the future value. I have the J, I have the M, I have the T. So in order to make use of this formula, let us try to check. The P is equals to 8623.93. I is 0.04 divided by 4, which we can simplify as 0.01. And this one actually calculated previously. Actually, I don't have to repeat the calculations. The main focus on this calculation here is that we want to make sure the P and also N correctly. So if 1 year compound for 4 times, 2 year it will be 8 times, 4 times 2. So as a result, at the end of 6 year, before withdrawal, I will have this as the amount of the answer. I will have the 8623.93 times the interest 1 plus 0.01 power of 8. The result I get is 9,343.89. Okay, again, this RM, this answer here, I doesn't put RM because it's not the final answer. But if you want to put the RM there, go ahead. No, nothing wrong. But I don't want to put it as if I don't want to put RM because this is not the final answer required by the questions. The final answer required by the question is at the end of the 10 years. We haven't reached there yet. Then go on. Next, this amount is before withdrawal. What if after withdrawal? So after withdrawal, what happened is that, guys and girls, in this question here, coincidentally, the withdrawal is 50%. That means the amount that being withdrawn out and the amount that remain in the account is the same. It's basically that we just take this accumulated value, multiply with 1/2 or divide by 2. So we can see that the amount is 467.95. 4671.95. This is the amount that we draw out, put into the other account, and also the same amount that is remain inside the bank D. Okay, reach until here, we have calculated the value at the end of 6 year, even after the withdrawal. So what happened is that the timeline now, we have moved on further. We have moved on further that we cover until the 6 years, and we want to proceed. Let this amount of money continue to roll for another 4 years. And in these 4 year times, there is no any other transaction insert or withdraw money. And now we have another situation of compound interest with a new principal or new present value. And this future value here, the S, is the final answer that we want according to the questions. So as a result, once again, the question is using compound interest formula. Identify what is the P, what is the I, what is the N. So P is 4671.95, the amount that we just calculated just now, the amount that remained after 50% withdraw out. I, 0.04 divided by 4, so 0.01. And how many years this have taken place? From the end of the 6th year until the end of the 10 years, in total take us 4 years. If 1 year compound interest for 4 times, 4 years it will compound a total of 16 times. And therefore, as a result, I have the answer as follow. 4671.95 multiply with 1 plus 0.01 power of 16. We press calculator for answer. We have 5478.23. And this is the final answer that we want, the amount accumulated at the end of the 10 years. Okay. Before I go on further, just now, Visha, you have a comment in the chat that you say that you find some other value. So I see you deleted the message. So by the way, if for those of you that have done or can help me to double check in case I make mistake anywhere again. And this is the answer that I suppose I get lah, according to my calculation. But just in case I make mistake anywhere, please kindly help me to double check. Not only press calculator to check the final answer, but try to see did I happen to substitute wrongly in any part of the calculations, just in case. Okay, so there is a mistake identified just now. The very first part, the end of the 4 years. Okay, so this part here, we try to double confirm the value and see whether did I make any wrong calculation here for the amount. So the amount here is supposed to be 8628.93. Yeah, the same amount that I get it in my answer scheme, but in my typing, I have the wrong answer here. Yeah, this is the correct answer, I suppose. Then let us try to check also the part behind. Do we happen to use the wrong value for calculations? So I suppose the value here, I have a wrong answer. So let me correct it back accordingly. So let me overlap with another color pen. So let me overlap it in blue lah. So I suppose I have here as 8628.93. 8628.93. And then by write the value calculated before withdrawal, I suppose I have 9343.90. So as a result, the after withdrawal here, sorry, this one also is the 8 here. You also have the corrections. 8628.93. 9343.90. And then the final answer, I suppose, the final answer is the same. Surprisingly, the final answer is the same. Because just now, different by 1 cent only. Okay, so since this amount 4,000 something is the same lah, then by write the very last part here, the answer should maintain correct lah. We have 5478.23. So this is the answer that we get. Okay, thanks for reminding. Go on. Next. I would like to proceed with questions B. So now question B, we want to refer to the story on Bank F now. So what happened in Bank F is that if you for the timeline of Bank F, we have the timeline, we have the end of the 6 year, the end of the 8 years, the end of the 10 years. And what happens here? Let us see carefully what is going on in questions. First of all, this is the amount that is being deposited into the bank according to the question. 4671.95 deposited into the account on Bank F. Where this amount is the amount that we draw out from the other bank account. And what he was told is that, according to the question, you want to find the amount of the account in Bank F at the end of the 10 years. That means just now this is the end of the 6th year. I want to know at the end of the 10 years, where the duration here, it happens to have 4 years, or t equals to 4. So this is the amount that we want to know. Then what happens, we know, is that if Bank F increase the saving rate to 12% compounded annually for the last 2 years. So what is actually happening in the story is that initially, according to the questions, this is what happening being told in the questions. Where you was told that for the interest rate inside the account is supposed to be 10% compounded every month, which is this part here highlighted in purple. However, according to the latest info we have on part B, the bank have increased the interest rate for the last 2 years. That means these 2 years behind here, we have another interest rate which is 10%. So in this case here, we have two different interest rate is going on for calculating this future value. Of course, if let's say you're alert enough, actually you can calculate this one in one shot to get the answer. But in here, as a beginner, we just try to calculate slowly, where the procedure of the calculations later. Maybe I would like to consider part by part like just now. From this value here, using this interest rate, all the way at the end of 8 years, we would like to see how much. Then from here, further grow with a new interest rate until the end value that we want according to questions. And let's see how much we get. So let's refer to the first part, the purple part here. The purple part here for end of 6 years until end of 8 years, yes, is used compound interest. Where according to info here, we have the P equals to 4671.95. Interest rate, I is 0.1 divided by 12, J divided by M. In this case here, I cannot simplify further into some decimal answer because somehow it will give me some long decimal answer that is non-terminating. If I cut short or round off any of the decimal places, I'm afraid the accuracy is affected. So therefore, I leave it in fraction form like this. Then, according to the questions, interest compounded 12 times a year. And in here, it goes through for 2 years. So n equals to 24. Substitute into the formula for compound interest. Therefore, for the first 2 years, the accumulated sum will be as follows. Still accordingly, I have 5701.61. So this is just amount at the end of the 8 years. So this is the amount that we have at the end of the 8 years. Then we would like to proceed our calculations to know the amount at the end of the 10 years. What we have now is that we proceed our calculations. Based on the previous calculation, we see that the accumulated value accordingly is that at the end of the 8 years, based on previous calculation, we see that we have the amount of 5701.61. And this amount here will continue earn interest in this Bank F account, but now with a new interest rate of 12% accordingly. So in here, we apply the compound interest formula for one more time, where this time the P is 5701.61. The I is 0.12 divided by 12, simplify 0.01. So also run for 2 years, and will be 24. So therefore, for the last 2 years, what will I have for the amount of the money? Substitute according to compound interest formula. There goes the answer that I have. The final answer is 7239.53. And the interpretation for this calculation here is actually the amount of money in bank at the end of 10 years. So this is the result that I have here. Okay. Then next, I would like to go for questions number 7 on section B. So these questions here is very tricky, where I see most of you that you can answer mostly on question A, B, C only. When the time comes to D for the early settlements, you all seems like not able to understand very well in the question and make mistake. Anyway, initially also I made the same mistake here for the question D later. So anyway, let us see what is going on in the questions here. A postman has to pay RM 880 every month for 84 months to settle a car loan at 6% compounded monthly. So again, I think maybe to be clearer info, I suppose in here, I miss out the words of 6. Maybe I should have an interest rate of 6%. So later, all these corrections, I will do it. And then I will upload a new file for you all to refer. Whatever correction I have made, I will somehow use a different color to highlight it for you to take notes. Go on. Continue. So let us try to understand the story, what is going on here using a timeline. So in this question here, what is happening is that we know that a postman is taking a loan and you need to have a regular repayment of 880 for every month for 84 months. And then the interest rate charge is 6% compounded monthly. We want to find the amount of loan. So let us try to understand the questions here is that, first of all, at the present value here, he got the loan. How much? We have no idea. Later we would like to count out. And this loan here is by repay by regular payment. And in here, the payment is monthly for 84 months. As you can see, the 1, 2, 3 until 84 here is actually payment keberapa. Ini adalah payment keberapa. So if I want to find out what is the answer for the loan here is that I actually just need to take all this repayment here in green here, the 880. I try to calculate each of their present value back to the point where we get loan, which means that the first 880, if back to the past, by right, the amount should be 880 times with 1 plus I to the power of minus 1. Okay. Maybe at this part here, you get confused hey, how I get this calculation here, guys and girls. Okay, by using the formula S equals to 1 plus I to the power of n. This account here is actually running using compound interest. But why we call it as annuity? Because this compound interest, you have a special patterns happening where you have a same amount of regular payment, and the payment is fixed at a certain time. Like for example here, monthly, and for a same interest rate. Therefore, this is the case that we need to consider as annuity rather than we consider as annuity at the end of the case. But originally, it is the case of compound interest. Compound interest and annuity related, where again, compound interest is one single payment, one single transaction. Annuity is with multiple of transaction. With the condition, the multiple of transaction, we have the same amount of regular payment, the same compounding periods, and also we have the same interest rate throughout each of the regular payment. Okay, anyway, let's try to see the idea here. So if I take these two as reference, so this is happen to be the S, sorry, this is the P, this is the S. So if I want to write the equations, P, oh sorry, let's see, P in terms of S, that means actually from here, P is actually equals to S divided by 1 plus I to the power of minus N, which is, sorry, power of N only, over power of N. And then when the time, we rewrite it in one line here, so power minus N. The N here is referred to how many compounding period is happened to backwards. So we try to see. So the S here, it will be each of the 880. The P will be referred to the reference point of the loan here. So for the first 880, it undergo one compounding periods, so power minus 1. The next one, the next 880, it back to the past, it undergo two compounding period, power minus 2, again according to the idea of this formula here. The third one, so on so forth until the last one. Okay. The reason I list out something like this here is for you to realize how come we can do our calculations directly using SN or AN, because the idea is actually from here we slowly derive. We have collected every single amount that we need to repay back. Every single amount that is corresponding to the loan, and then we total them out. That will be the amount of loan that we want to refer. So now we list out each of single regular payment, the present value is as follow. When the time I try to total them up, this is actually equals to the loan. And in our formula, it is a present value annuity of A84. And if you ever realize how the formula of A84 here obtained is actually based on the geometry progressions, where I consider this as the T1, T2, so on so forth until T84. And I have found out that my common ratio is 1 plus I, power of minus 1. So we use SN formula, the sum formula for GP, and we somehow derive out the AN formula that we are using now for our calculations. But of course, nowadays you don't care about that so much, but you need to know, I somehow need you to know that this is the origin, how you get the SN or AN formula. It's actually derived for geometry progressions. It's just that we doesn't spend time to derive this one slowly whenever we solve question, but we apply directly. So from here, we know that the total loan is actually equal to A84, where the A84 is referred to the present value annuity, such that the N is equals to 84. And where is the N equals to 84 I obtained from is that according to the questions, the payment of 880 every month is telling us that this is the value of R, the regular payment. Compounded monthly tells us that M equals to 12. And there is a total of 84 months need to pay. That means actually it will undergo 84 payments, so N equals to 84. As a result, we substitute the information accordingly, where J equals to 0.06, don't forget. We substitute accordingly to the AN formula. We press the calculator. We have the loan amount as 60,238.68. Again, if you are lazy to write down sentence, we usually keep our final answer in RM will do. If you want to know how to interpret the answer in sentence, by right, this is the sentence I can suggest. original value of the loan is RM 6023.68. By the way, the timeline, there is no marks for that. It's not no marks allocated for the timeline. But I just hope that it will somehow give you a better idea how come we use AN to solve the questions. But this is the concept, this is the idea going on. It is derived from compound interest, and then we sum up whatever future value or present value of the compound interest. Then we will derive out the corresponding annuity formula. Next, part B. A poor man has to pay RM 880 every month for 84 months to settle the car loan. This is the same questions. I just type it again. So the same situation happened is that now I would like to find out the total interest he has to pay. Okay. So guys and girls, in these questions here, the total interest he has to pay is actually the total monthly payment minus the loan amount. This loan is repaid not by one shot like previously we learned in the case of simple interest, simple discount, or even compound interest. But the repayment is by installment slowly from time to time. So each of the payment here, actually, each of the 880 according to these questions here, actually already include the interest accordingly. And in order to calculate the answer for the interest here, of course, you somehow have learned the formula that I equals to RTM minus AN. That's it to get the answer. But again, you need to know the idea, the concept, how we actually get the calculation done. So by right, the total payment we have made is 84 payments of 880. And then as we say just now, the interest is using this amount to minus the loan. Then we find out the loan just now is 60238.68. So by right, reach up to here, it's very clear enough to see that you use the one that is highlighted in purple minus the one at the bottom highlighted in red here should be the answer. But of course, I believe you don't interpret in this way here, but you just go for the formula. I equals to NR minus AN. And once again, the formula that I'm using here is different from what you use all the time because you people use RTM. The TM is actually multiply to get the value of N. And in this case here, it's not practical to use RTM because the TM is to find the N value. If the N value already there, why I bother to consider T multiply M anymore? We just plug in the 84. So as a result, again, we identify the information we want accordingly, the R and also the N, as well as the loan amount, substitute accordingly to the formula, just for simplicity. We got the answer as following. And if you try to check back the calculations on this interest rate formula, it's actually doing the same thing I tell you, that the total amount that you pay minus the amount of loan is the interest that being charged. You can see that there is actually the same calculation. But we just have it, for simplicity, we derive our formula to solve directly from formula. And therefore, this is the answer. Continue. Question C. If the postman failed to make first 5 payment, how much he has to pay on the 6th payment to settle all the outstanding array? So now you want to clear off the debt, not only the current payment, but also the payment that missed out, how much he should pay. If you happen to say that in total there is 6 payment not paid, so you just take 6 multiply R, then that is of course wrong, because all the payment missed out, it need to be penalty. And let us try to see what is going on in the situations here. So by right, he missed out all these 5 payments here. And when the time comes to the 6th payment due, I need to pay the 6th payment, 880. And for those payment that is missed out, you will get penalty where interest will be charged on each of the payment that missed out. And the actual amount that need to pay is different from one to another, and we will see it later. So let us try to see. This is a situation happen, and what is the amount of money that actually need to be paid? Instead of just rather simply memorize formula, let us try to really understand the situations. So if you happen to miss out 5 payment, and the 6th payment is due now, so what is the total amount we need to pay so that there's no more outstanding array happens? So first of all, the current payment 880 that is due. This is the amount that we need to pay now. Next, the 5th payments together with the interest, which is 880 multiplied with 1 plus I. The I is how much? Later we only calculate specifically. But now this is just the general idea to let us see how we get the payment for those missed payment together with the interest. Then the next one, or the 4th payment, I will have 880 multiply 1 plus I squared. So how come it's 1 plus I squared? How come it's just 1 plus I? Because it go through different compounding periods accordingly. So for the 5th payment, until the 6th payment, only 1 compounding period, power 1, 2 compounding period, power 2, 3 compounding period, power 3, if go on, power 4, power 5. And again, how we do so? Concept of compound interest. So S equals to P1 plus I power of n. So for example, I consider this one is my P, which at this point here to get the S, if you happen to be substitute the P 880, 1 plus I power of 1 because only 1 compounding periods. So these are the amount that I list out. This is the amount that we want to pay. We need to total this amount up and find out the amount need to pay. Of course, I believe most of the time for simplicity, you won't do these interpretations, but you just directly use the formula of S6. And how we actually get this S6 here, again, is actually by the derivations of geometry progression. We total this up by using GP, where this is the first term. The R, again, will be 1 plus I. So we try to substitute into a GP formula. You find out that it derives out the SN formula that we have learned accordingly. So once again, in this chapter here, for simplicity, we just apply the SN formula. So somehow, like, as if in this case here, to solve, you will memorize how many payment to make. You take how many payment miss out plus 1 current payment. So like this case here, miss out 5 plus 1 current payment, you're going to use S6. Substitute and calculate accordingly. So this is the answer that he should pay, 5346.44, according to my calculation. Then we go for 7D. 7D. Pay attention on this question because a lot of you happen to make mistake in these questions. So now, the question says if he had made the first 5 monthly payments, and want to settle all the loan in the 6th payment, find the amount that he should pay and the amount of money saved after settling the loan. So let us start with finding the amount that he should pay. Then only we consider how much money is saved. But let us try to understand the situation here now. So the question says that if he have made the first 5 payment, that means the first 5 payments sudah clear. Kita tak tengok sudah. And now he want to settle all the loan in the 6th payment. So dia sudah clear semua loan di depan, 5 loan di depan, the payment di depan. What we want now is that, by right, there is more payment that is unpaid, which is the 6 until the 84 payment, belum bayar lagi. And kita nak settle bila? Kita dah settlekan semua bayaran ini pada masa sini. Pada masa sini. So, in total, how many payments is actually not yet paid from 6 until 84? This is something that we need to really concern. Actually, berapa payment lagi belum bayar lagi. So originally there is 84 payments. You have cleared the first 5 payments according to the questions. So by right in here, there is total of 79 unpaid payment. Ada 79 payment lagi belum bayar. But if you realize that I don't write n equals to 79, I don't write n equals to 79 because I don't want you to get confused that the n here and also the value of n that we use for annuity calculations later. Go on. So in these 79 payments here, if you realize, if you want to use AN formula, those are that include in AN formula are those are that it have interest free. That means we have waived the interest. Kita sudah cut off the interest. If you want to cut off interest, it must happens to be the case that you have the payment in the future, which I highlight here. All these are the payment in the future that you pay it early now. Then you can skip the interest. If you realize on the 6 month here, the 880, I didn't highlight because this amount here, you cannot skip the interest. Pasal apa tak boleh skip? Dia sudah due. Masa sekarang nak bayar sudah. So memanglah tak akan skip interest. So we need to consider the calculation in this way here. Let's say in general, before we just simply memorize formula. So we find out that we have one current payment due 880. That means I need to pay full 880 for this case here. Then the rest that I highlight is actually the future payment that we can skip the interest, and how much amount is the amount that we need to pay after we skip the interest, and how we calculate the interest skip. So we take the 880 back to the past, something like what we do in the loan just now. Power minus 1 because it go through one compounding period. The next one, power minus 2, power minus 3, and then continue all the way until 84 by right is power of minus 78. Power of 78, minus 78. You can observe back the pattern lah. If 7 minus 1, 8 minus 2, 9 minus 3, 84 minus 78. You as if like can see some pattern there, how the relationship can get such value here. Okay, go on. So now, after you're clear about this thing here, you realize that if I consider this part I highlighted in red, I try to calculate using geometry progressions. The sum for geometry progression formula, I find out that if I call this as T1, T2, so on so forth, I find out that this is the geometry progressions where the A is equals to 880, 1 plus I to power minus 1. R is equals to 1 plus I power minus 1. We can substitute in the sum formula on GP to get the answer of this total here. And this total here is obtained. In shortcut for this chapter here is A78 because there is in total of 78 payments here, which the interest is free. But your answer again is not A78 because don't forget there's one more current payment that he need to consider. So this is what going on in the total payment that we should consider for calculation. The amount that he should pay, is the current payment, the payment that is due, the 6 payment, plus the present value of the 7 until 84 payment, which is simplified as A78 because there is total of 78 payment there. And this 78 payment is the payment that happens to be payment in the future. Payment in the future. So let me highlight it again for the payment in the future. So these are the payment in the future. This will happen to waive for the interest. Bahagian ini akan waive for interest. Yang depan ini tidak. That's why we need to calculate the full amount. And as a result, next we want to calculate the amount that he saved after settling the loan. So the amount he's settling from the loan, it will be, the total amount he saved will be the interest that is waived. So bahagian ini yang tak payah bayar interest, it will be the money that being saved. And now we base on that to do calculations. The next part, total payment will be the 6 payment plus the present value of 7 until 84 payment, simplified as A78. So let us try to calculate what is A78 in this case here. I have 56722.14. Plus with the 880, the 6 payment. So the total payment that we need to make is 57602.14. So he should pay this amount. So once again, this question cannot use A79 to get answer because it's not all the 79 payment that are paid is a future payment. One of them is already due. The 6th payment is already due the moment he want to clear the debt. So therefore, it cannot be A79, just A78 plus a current payment due. Then total money that is saved is the interest that is saved, the interest that is waived for this 78 payments. So therefore, the calculation, nothing much. If you just that using the interest on the AN formula where I have N times R minus A78. In this case here, the N is actually 78. So 78 multiply the regular payment minus the A78. So this is the amount that is saved from settling the loan. So far, this is the questions we have for finance. And please be careful on the finance question. Again, you need to try to understand the question. Don't just blindly apply formula. You must understand the questions, then only you know what is the right formula to be used. Not just simply see keyword again, understand the story first. Understand the story first. Go on. Next, I want to refer to chapter 6. Let us refer to questions number 1 on section A. Given that x plus 2, 2x, and 2x plus 3 are the first 3 terms in the arithmetics progressions, find the value of x. Hence, find the sum of all the terms given the last term is 3, 6, 7. Okay, let us slowly interpret the questions. First, these are the first 3 terms. That means I have it as T1, T2, T3. The question told that this is an arithmetic progression, and we want to find out what is the x value. What the arithmetic progression happens to give us info is that if it's an arithmetic progressions, I suppose I have a common difference. The D exists. How to get the answer for D? You take 2 consecutive terms, the term behind minus the term in front. So in this case here, I can use the terms that I know. Either I have D equals to T2 minus T1, or I can have D equals to T3 minus T2. And both of them is the common different D. You tak payah tulis D1, D2 because dua-dua pun nilai sama D. Hanya ada satu D saja. So therefore, I will begin my calculation in the way that in order to solve X inside T1, T2, T3, I make use of the idea that both of these subtraction have the same value because both of them represent the common difference. Therefore, I have T2 minus T1 equals to T3 minus T2. You need to write this equation here down as a reference, as a proof that you understand that you try to use common difference to solve the questions. Substitute the T1, T2, T3 accordingly, left and right. Simplify our answer. For the left-hand side, 2x minus x minus 2, I got x minus 2. The right-hand side, I have just constant 3. Simplify, I have x equals to 5. Just a simple calculations. Then by right, after I have this calculation done, it should be clear and easy enough for me to see that what is T1, T2, and also T3. So it happens to be 7, 10, and also 30. The D is clear enough to see is equals to 3. In fact, actually, we can see the calculation here already provide us the answer. This is actually the D value 3. Okay. If you're clear about all this value here now, I believe the next part, hence, find the sum of all the terms if given the last term is 3, 6, 7. Okay. The next part of the questions. Okay. Watch out. What is the 3, 6, 7 referring to is the last term. Last term yung last terms ke berapa? Tak tahu. What I want to find? I want to find out sum of all the terms. So that means the first until the last term. So 3, 6, 7 here, if you let it become n, salah. You let it become Sn, salah. Because, again, read carefully. This is the last term. This is a term. Therefore, if this is a term, by right, I should relate it with Tn. I relate with Tn so that by the time I can solve the n value from this equation here, I should know how many terms are there. And by using the formula for arithmetic progressions, just now we identified that the A is actually equals to 7. A is 7. D is equals to 3. Substitute into the arithmetic progressions formula. Simplify our answer, minus 7 on both sides. In here, we minus 7 on both sides. Followed by, we divide 3 on both sides. So we have answer n is 1 to 1. Okay, 1 to 1 here is trying to tell you that there is 121 terms. Okay, 121 terms. Ada sebanyak begitu banyak punya nombor. So sum of all the terms in this progression is actually equal to S1 to 1. Sum from the first until the 1 to 1 terms. Therefore, the calculation here, I can just make use of the Sn formula to get my answer, 22627. So the formula I have in display here is using 2a plus n minus 1b to get the result. N over 2a plus n minus 1d to get the answer. Of course, you can also solve this question by using n over a plus l. Your L will be the last term here, 367. But you should get the same answer. So be careful on reading the questions. Many students have mistake on the hands part there, where they don't really understand the meaning of 367. B. The second terms and the third terms of a geometry progression is m to the power 3 over 4 and m to the power 5 over 16, respectively. If m equals to 6, find the first terms and also the common ratio. Then hence, find the sum of the first 10 terms. You need to find the A, the R, and also the S10 for this question here. Info that we have is that we have T2, we have T3. with the M is equals to 6 as a start. So how we get the answer, guys and girls? So no matter how you confuse at this moment now, let us slowly interpret information that we know to do calculation as a start. If we know M equals to 6, therefore, I know T2 is actually 6 to the power of 3 over 4, where this is the T2 according to my question. This is the This is the T2 of my question. I don't want to cancel the 4, but somehow I happens to seem that cancel it. And this is the T3. So T3, by calculation, I got is 486. After we get this answer here, so what? So guys and girls, we want to find A and also R. So what we know about the informations on we have here is we have the value of T2 and also T3. And how does it help us to find A and R? So relate with A and R, T2 is actually AR, T3 is actually AR power of 2. So if I want to get R, I can just make use of this equation here, divide each other. Or just using basic concept, R is actually equals to the divisions of two consecutive terms, where the term behind divided by the terms in front. So in this case here, if I want to get the R value, I just use the T3 divided by T2. I get the answer as 9. Next, in order to get the answer for the first term, what I happen to know is that I realized that T2 is actually equals to A times R. So if I want to get A, it will equals to T2 divided by R. And this is how I got my result, 6. So from there, we get the answer for A and R. Once you can get A and R, by right, the sum for the first 10 terms should not be a problem anymore. We just substitute according to the SN formula of geometry progressions. In here, it's up to you. You want to use 1 minus R or R minus 1 formula. Both of them should give you the same result. And this is the answer I have. 2615088300. Continue. We will go for question B. Sorry, question 6 on section B. Another questions about, question 5 on section B. The questions about sequence and series. And these questions here, number 5, you need to really interpret carefully the idea of the questions before you can solve. And by the way, this question have a correction there, where this part here in red, the 2440 should not be in RM because it doesn't make sense, because if it's 2440 is the RM, then it's not related with the questions, because all the while in the questions here, we are discussing about how many motorcycle is being sold. We talk nothing about money. Suddenly have money, but it cannot be related, so there's something wrong here. So by right, this amount here is refer to how many motorcycle there. Please be aware. If you have the question now with you, please kindly do the corrections. Okay, go on. So two company, we have Epsilon and also Theta, start to sell motorcycle at the same time. Question A start with Epsilon. Epsilon sell H motorcycle in the first month, and its sales increased by K motorcycles successively in the following months. So every month increased by K value of motorcycle. You will show that it sells 320 motorcycle in the 5th month, and the sum of the sale for the first 8 months is 2,440 motorcycle, 5H and K. And let us try to interpret the information here slowly. So what is the information that we know is that, first of all, we realize that for the very first month, H motorcycle was sold. And then you will show that this sales increased by K successfully in the following months. That means the second month, it will be H plus K. Third month, plus another K become H plus 2K. And so on and so forth, until you notice that on the 5th month, We have exact figures of 320. And then all the way go until the 8 months, and we want to find out the total. And we want to find and all the way until the 8 month, we notice that the total is 2440. And now we want to find out what is the value of H and K. So this is the info that we happen to interpret, and all this HK here is referred to the sales of epsilons. If you look at the sales, the epsilon sales, the H plus K, so on and so forth, the first 3 months, or maybe the keyword itself, it gives you the idea that if I consider this as T1 for the first month, T2, T3, so on so forth, T5 until T8 accordingly, we realize that this is actually happens to follow a arithmetic progression where the first term obviously is H, the common difference is equals to K, and the 2440 here, with this interpretation, 244 is actually the sum from T1 until T8. So by right, this is equals to S8. And with these informations here, let us try to get our answer for H and K. And the main part of the information that we're going to use to solve this question is that the T5 equal to these exact figures, and the S8 equals to 244. And of course, the A and also the B substitute accordingly to get the answer. So as a result, in the next slide, having 320 motorcycles sold in the 5th month, I will consider as T5 according to interpretation just now. So make sure every time you write T what, you know is refer to what. And in here, I would like to refer to the sale on the 8 months, so in the 5th months. So it will be 320. Arithmetic progression formula for Tn. And in this case here, A is H, K, D is K, and N is 5. Substitute accordingly. We have H plus 4K equals to 320. Reach until here. I'm not sure how good to rearrange, to reorganize, to solve the H and K. So I leave it in this form here first. I go for next piece of information. S8 is equals to 2440. Sn formula for arithmetic progressions. Consider A as H, D as K, N equal to 8. Substitute. Simplify. I got 2H plus 7K equals to 610. Now I have two equations to solve two unknown H and K. Look at these two equations. It maybe give me the idea that H plus 4K equals to 32. I would like to rewrite it in this form here, called as equation 1. The other equations, I just call it equation 2. Then what I want to do is that, based on this equation 1 and 2 that I obtained previously, substitute 1 into 2. I simplify my answer accordingly. So the H I substitute with 320 minus 4K. Expand the 2 inside. Simplify the answer. We group K on one side, the rest on the other. I find out K is equals to 30. Once I can get the K value, I should be able to get the H value easily from equation 1. I substitute K equals to 30. I got 200. So there goes the answer for H and K. Okay, then question number 5. Question number 5, you need to interpret carefully, because if you just simply memorize a formula or just simply put T1, T2, T3, maybe you will get confused. And let us try to observe the situation going on here on part B. Just now, in this question here, it was told that Theta sell 160 motorcycle in the first month, and the sales increased 35 successfully in the following month. Then if both companies sales the same number of motorcycle in the N months, find the value of N. So the summary of the situation here and the previous information is that previously, after we find out what is the value of H and also K, The sales of epsilon is clear enough to see that for the first month, second month, third month, so on and so forth, until the n month. Run with this formula here. For the sales of data, it's very obvious in the question, directly told you the value 160, the next month plus 35, plus another 35, so on and so forth until Tn. So this part here is just for explaining what is going on and then how we go on further to tackle the questions. So according to these questions here, what you was told is that they sell the same numbers of motorcycle on the n months. In other words, the Tn for the epsilon on and theta should be having the same value. These two value here, by the time I make it equal, it will get the n that I want according to the questions. So in order to solve that, let us first calculate in the n month, what is the sales of theta and epsilon respectively. For the sales of theta, as you can see, we have Tn equals to 160 plus n minus 1 times 35. These calculations we already see in just now the previous slide. We just apply it directly. Expand simplify, 35n plus 125 is the Tn for theta. Whereas for epsilon, again, this Tn formula is obtained from the previous slide after we observe the patterns. Simplify it, I got 30n plus 170. If I write both of these have the same value, so I equal them, simplify, and find out n equals to 9. So therefore, on the 9 months by right, they have the same sales, same numbers of motorcycle sell. But the question here asks for n equals to what value only. So I don't have to write months then, just n equals to 9. Finally, find the total sales for theta and epsilon for the first 2 years. Okay, be careful on this question here. A lot of the students, you know that both of them is referring about arithmetic progressions. So you use SN formula, but be aware, the n here is 24. It's not 2. Because the n, according to all the while in our calculation, the n is referred to the monthly sales. Kalau n1, that means 1 month. N2, 2 months, so on and so forth. Now we're talking about the duration of 2 years. In this case here, it should be n is 24. And I want to find the total for both of them. So what I can do is that let us calculate the total individually first. For theta, S24, answer 13080. For epsilon, substitute according to formula, I find out that the value is 13500. Total up both of them, that will be the amount that we want for how many motorcycle is sold. This is how we get the answer. Not too difficult, but quite a number of students make the wrong decision on determining the value. Continue. So we have done chapter 6, 7, and I will continue for chapter 2 and also 1. I'm sorry, I will extend the time. So I will extend the time to make sure all the question is discussed. So if let's say you're not able to make it, after 12 o'clock, then you may watch the video there later. Okay. Go on. So now next I want to refer to chapter 2, questions number 3. Question number 3 on sections B. Let's see the questions. Find the solution set for these inequalities. So it looks complicated here, but actually not too difficult. Let us start to solve the question in the way that we copy back the inequalities. And now let us do the expansion, guys and girls. So watch out for the expansion I will do is that I will consider I break the first bracket into two parts, the part underlined and the part that I circle on the left hand side here, the two bracket I break into this way here. So the first value 1 multiplied with the second brackets, I suppose it will give me the answer as 6 plus 5x. Then I use the second terms, minus x multiply the second bracket. It will give me minus 6x minus 5x squared. The right-hand side term, I do the similar thing. I will have x multiply the second bracket plus 4 multiply second bracket. Therefore, this is the result that I obtain. Reach until here, what I would like to do is that I would like to rearrange the inequality here, where actually at this moment here, we somehow can see that somehow have some idea that this is the case that about the quadratic inequalities. So let us keep all the x terms, all the terms on the left, 0 on the right. So at this part here, let me simplify my answer in the way that I simplify the x squared term first. So on the left, I have minus 5x squared. On the right, I have x squared. So if I want to have this one rearranged to the left, so I will have minus 5x squared minus x squared. Then the x terms that I have accordingly on the left, I have 5x minus 6x. On the right, 2x plus 4x. So simplify it, I suppose that minus x. Simplify it, I suppose I have 6x. Then I bring over. Constant, we will have the result as 6 and also 8. So I bring over. As a result, for square terms, minus 6x squared. For the x term, minus 7. For the constant, minus 2. And observe the inequality sign, not changing any directions at this moment here. Then be aware, please don't factorize at this moment here to get answer because we happen to have negative coefficient on x squared. So what I need to do now is that I need to proceed with the step that I would like to multiply. The whole equation with minus 1, or we switch the sign on each of the terms. And watch out the inequality sign change directions. Then we factorize the quadratic inequalities. Continue. Watch out. Please never ever do something like this. You write 2x plus 1 and then less than 0. And then 3x plus 2 less than 0 for further calculation. This is not proper. Because the technique we learn here in our syllabus, in our account techniques, we learn to simply solve it by using graphical method. So graphical method does not require to have this type of step, and this type of step is not relevant in graphical method. Graphical method, what we actually be trying to do is that, guys, in this graphical method is what we try to do is that we try to draw graph. What graph we try to draw here is that we try to draw this graph here. We try to draw this graph here. We try to draw this quadratic graph here. And this factorization is serve a purpose for us to identify what is the x-intercept. So as a result, by right, this graph here is a smiling face curve with the x-intercept, where the first bracket is minus 1 over 2. Sorry, with the first bracket, I have the x-intercept as minus 1 over 2. The other brackets, the first bracket here will give me the x vectors, the x-intercept as minus 1 over 2. The second one give me x equals to minus 2 over 3. Arrange accordingly, by right, I should come up with minus 2 over 3 first, followed by minus 1 over 2. So I have this graph here draw in. Then next, What actually I'm doing in the graphical methods here is that if you realize, I try to investigate the graph that I draw and the factorization I have here. I'm referring to the part of the graph which is less than 0. In other words, the function value less than 0, which is the location of the graph, where it's below the x-axis, below the horizontal axis. And below the horizontal axis, this is the part of the graph that I highlight in yellow. And what is the corresponding interval of x that evolve will be the one I highlighted in green. And for simplicity, we'll see that usually we just do the sketching 2-in-1 like this, where we sketch the interval of x as well as we sketch the graph at the same time. We sketch the graph at the same time. Then from there, we observe the answer. We find out the answer is x dot dot minus 2 over 3 less than x less than minus 1 over 2. Your answer must be a set notation because solution set. So this is how we get answer for question number 3 in section B. Just a simple quadratic questions. Make sure you don't do any unnecessary mistake, unnecessary careless mistake. Go on. Section B, number 4. Chapter 2 question also. So there's a correction on these questions here where given that the function fx here, fy here is equals to y squared plus 8y minus 9 can be written in the form as follows. Then by using the definition, this one, express fy equals to 0 in this form here. Find the value of p and q. So guys and girls, actually these questions, right, dia agak jahat lah. Jahat dari segi dia macam banyak bagi information untuk tipu kamu, tapi information itu tak berguna. Contohnya, they tell you that function y is this one, but actually all the while later you solve, right? There's no necessary to refer to this at all because they already told you this one can be written in the form behind here. Dia boleh dapat dalam bentuk ini. How you can get? Maybe lah, you can try completing the square to get this form here. But of course, you don't have to do completing the square because the question does not require you to do so. They already tell you the answer. Inilah jawapan dia. They are equivalent. Tak percaya, you boleh expand balik dan check. Sama saja jawapan dia. Then what they actually want us to do is that they want us express this one here, fy here, into this form, the modulus form. And the hinge given to us, if you realize the hinge given to us is the definitions of the modulus, the definition of the modulus, this one, the definition of the modulus. The definition of the modulus, as well as this form here. How can they relate it to get answer? Let us try to see. Start with the info fy equal to 0. Substitute the fy for the bracket square minus 25. As I say again, the function in red there is meaningless. We just need the square minus 25 will do. Then what I do the next is that in order to apply the definition of the modulus, I need to have square on one side, the rest on the other. So I have the negative 25 rearranged to the other side. And now, watch out, for this part to the next part here, what we want to do is that we want to square root both sides. Insert square root on both sides. No plus minus sign, no plus minus sign, just insert square root on both sides. And then on the left-hand side, based on this definition here, if you see square root square, it will turn modulus. So left-hand side become modulus, x plus 4. The right-hand side, square root of 25 is just 5. Reach up to here, you can see that this is the form that we want to achieve, already achieved. So we have done the first part, we achieved the form. We already achieved the form here. Then hence, by using this form we achieve, find out what is P and also Q. So what you do, take the result, compare with modulus y plus P equals to Q. You find out that by compare, P is 4, Q is 5. That's it, the answer for A. But however, if you fail to solve part A here, then part B, then you will stuck somewhere lah, because there's no exact figure to solve. Next. Part B, the test is our knowledge on modulus equations. You are given modulus y minus 2p equals to 3q plus 2y. By the value of p and q that we obtained previously, from these equations, we substitute the p and q, simplify, we got modulus y minus 8 equals to 15 plus 2y. So for this case here, for the modulus equation, I'm going to split it into two cases. The first case, I maintain the modulus term, but of course I need to get rid of the modulus bracket. I maintain 15 and 2y. I don't switch any sign. Then second case, open modulus bracket, 15 and negative, and also 2y, 15 and 2y, we switch the sign. From positive become negative, from positive become negative. Relationship for equation is always an OR. The OR is very important. Make sure you have the OR here for the definition. Then we solve the first case accordingly. We got y equals to minus 23. Then we solve the second case accordingly. We got the y equals to negative 7 over 3. Then we need to determine which one is supposed to be the correct answer. Usually you will choose a positive answer as the final answer. But this time both of them is minus. So is it really reject all of them? Again, to determine the answer, not to see positive or negative, but we try to do verification. So here in simple verifications, I consider the verification happens in the way that I have the left-hand side of the equation before you divide into two cases. And also the right-hand side of the equations. Substitute with each of the y value that we have, and we try to see the result. Whether the one highlighted in yellow and green, they have the same figures or not, they have the same value or not. If they have the same value, then yes, that's the answer. If they are not the same value, reject. So in this case here, we're going to reject y equals to minus 23 because the left and right doesn't come up with the same value. The verification, actually, you don't have to show the calculation. Just press calculator will do. Continue. For B2, so same idea. Start from the inequality. We substitute the P and Q. Simplify. This is what we got. Y minus 12 greater equal to 14. So to solve these questions here, guys and girls, define the modulus. Define the modulus. So how we define the modulus here, guys and girls? Recall back. If let's say I have modulus of W equals, modulus of W greater equal to, let's say, K. The first situation, open modulus, maintain inequality, maintain K. Second, open modulus, switch inequality, switch the sign of K. Relationship for this arrangement greater, we have all. So as a result, this is what I have. Solve it, just a simple linear inequalities. You got y greater equals to 26, y less than equals to negative 2. Then what you do is that you draw a number line to observe the relationship of all, which is union. So I have negative 2, I have 26. Less than equal negative 2, greater equals to 26. Both of these number lines should be on different level because there are two different cases that we want to unite them with union. So the result will be this one I have. So the answer, if you want to have it in interval notation, is just as simple as this. Infinity to negative 2, close bracket, 26 until infinity, close bracket. And if let's say you want to write in set notation, The question doesn't specify what method to write. So if you want to write set notation, be aware, the way of writing is like this. You will have it as, sorry, it's not X, it should be Y. So if we curly bracket Y, we have Y less than equals to -2 for this on the left, or Y greater equals to 26. Must use the word or. You cannot use comma, you cannot use union. Be aware of that. Inside the set bracket, we can use or only, no union notation. Comma notation, somehow you will see before it happens, but it's not very appropriate to have comma for this case here because it's not clear enough. So this is how we get the answer for section B, question number 4. Okay. So already exceed 5 minutes of 12 o'clock. Sorry, I still want to continue so that we can finish the discussion of the questions here. Go on. Section B, question number 1, chapter 1. 2 more questions to go. Simplify. Question 1 is simplify these expressions here. 1 minus 4 power of n minus 2, 2 minus n. Okay, guys and girls, to solve this question, there is a variety way of calculations. One of the way to do the calculation is that we can convert this power minus 2 to become 4 over n squared. And then with further calculations. But what I do today is a bit different, so observe carefully. We notice that this expression here is actually equal to, I have the same expression multiplied with 1. So by right, both of this is the same after I multiply 1. I want to emphasize multiply 1 here to let you to see how come I can suddenly multiply something and it is correct for the calculation in this case here. Because the value that I multiply is actually 1. And of course, I'm not going to multiply 1 in this form here. I'm going to multiply 1 in the form of n squared over n squared. The reason why I want to do so is so that I can get rid of the power of minus. So as a result, we have the n squared, we multiply accordingly, and we will have the result as follows. So semak balik, 1 minus 4n squared, power of minus n squared. With the time you do multiplication of power of minus, 1 minus 4n minus 2 multiply with n squared. What happened? 1 multiply n squared, we got n squared. Then this part here, 4n squared multiply n squared is actually equals to minus 4n0, which is minus 4 itself only. So this is how I get my result there. Then further, this can be further simplified if you realize the quadratic here, I can factorize to become n minus 2, n plus 2. So watch out, in this calculation here, I do 2 factorization at the same step. I factorize this part here, I highlighted in yellow, the quadratic. The other part I do factorization is this one that I highlighted in green, according to the guideline here. I factor out the -1. Then from there, you should be able to see that I can do cancellation on the next step on n minus 2. So therefore, simplify by cancelling the n minus 2. I have the answer and n plus 2 over n squared. There goes the result. Again, this is not the only answer. You can try with different approach to get the answer correctly, but make sure it's in the correct maths concept. 1b. This question looks complicated, and let's see how we're going to solve all these questions here. So first of all, we copy back the roots term. We have cube root inside square roots. And in order to solve these questions here, I would like to convert the roots into indices where the idea is the square root I will convert into power of 1 over 2. The cube root I will convert into power of 1 over 3. So as a result, this is what I have. The square root is the outer layer. The cube root is the inner layer. After I do until this form here, the next thing what I want to go on further to solve the question is that I would like to simplify the power here. And at the same time, 64 here, I would like to convert to some base number power of something. So maybe 64, I will consider 2 power of something. So as a result, my next part of the calculation, first I base on the power of indices. So if I power, so I take the 2 power multiply. 64 is actually 2 power of 6. And as a result, the next line, this is the change that happened. First, power of 1 over 3, power 1 over 2, power, multiply become 1 over 6. 64 turn into 2 power of 6. The next one I want to simplify for my answer is that if let's say I have some numbers multiply each other under a bracket and then the power of n. So for example, A, B, C, they are multiplying each other and power of n. So it can be rewritten in the form of each of the ABC, we power them and we multiply. And this one, calculations, is not valid for plus and minus. Kalau plus and minus tak boleh buat macam itu. Contohnya, A plus B power of n. You tak boleh kata A power of n plus B power of n. Ini salah. Same go for minus. It only apply for the case of multiply or divide. Such expansion of power only apply for multiply and divide. So the next line, what will happen is that 1 over 6, we expand the power on each of the terms. Simplify them again using the power of indices, the thing that we have applied just now. So the first one, 6 multiply 1 over 6, I have 1. 2 power 1 is just actually equal to 2. 8 multiply 1 over 6, I will have 4 over 3 for the power. 27 multiply with 1 over 6, I will have 9 over 2. So there goes the answer. So this is the answer I should have. If you want to keep in the roots form, also okay. But I think keep in this indices form will be good enough, although it's in fraction form. Go on, the last question. Number 2. Solve this equations here, guys. Let's see how we solve this equation. First of all, we copy back the equation we have there. And the next thing what I want to do, okay, guys and girls, the way to solve this question here again, you have varieties of ways that you can try to do. But what I suggest you to do here is that in here, I would like to convert the square root to become indices, power of half. So I'm converting this part here, as you can see. I'm converting this part here. The rest maintain the same. Next, what I want to do is that I want to use the rules of indices, power of power. So if the rules of indices, power of power, I will take the power multiply. So as a result, what I will do the next line is that, guys and girls, I will multiply this one and get the result as 2 power of x minus 2 equals to 5. Reach up to here, 2 and 5 is not the same base number, and they can never change to the same base number. So I insert log both sides. By rules of log, I can bring the power to the front, multiply with the log base 2. Sorry, I can multiply with the log 2. So I have x minus 2 multiply log 2. Make sure you have a bracket there for x minus 2. Make sure you have a bracket there for x minus 2, because the whole thing multiplied with the log 2. Then next what I do is that I want to divide both sides with log 2. So from here to the next line, I divide both sides with log 2. Then I plus 2 on both sides. Press calculator for answer. So I suppose I have 4.322 if I correct to 3 decimal places. Continue. The next one on third equations. We have square root x plus square root of 11x plus 5 equals to 5. To solve this question, if you want to direct square both sides, no problem. But I will prefer to rearrange so that one of the square root go to the other side. And my choice here is that I would like to rearrange square root of x go on to the other side, which I happen to think that 5 minus square root of x is easier to square compared to 5 minus square root of 11x plus 5. That's why I choose to rearrange square root of x only. Then next, now what I do is that I square both sides. So please square both sides. Don't you ever again write the answer as this one. Squaring both sides, you cannot square each of the terms individually for the operation of plus minus. Cannot. But we need to apply these operations as a reference. So we have m minus n squared equals to m squared plus n squared minus 2mn. Compare this one. We notice that 5 is the m, square root of x is the n. I don't consider the negative sign anymore because it's already considered in my formula. I just need to identify what is the m and n, and then I calculate accordingly. So m squared is 25, n squared is n squared is x, 2mn, we substitute accordingly, we have 10 square root of x. As a result, this is the answer that we have accordingly. Reach up to here, the square root is still there, but don't worry. We rearrange in the way that square root on one side, the rest on the other. So I suppose I have 10 square root of x equals to 20 minus 10x. Reach up to here. Some of you are very excited to square both sides directly, but please don't do squaring both sides yet, because whenever if there's a number in front of square root, we try to see, can this number be simplified? So we see, do I have any common factor between the 10 square root of x, 20, and minus 10? And obviously there is. The common factor is 10. So divide 10 on all the terms. I will have square root of x equals to 2 minus x. And then now you square both sides, it will be much easier. Square of the square root is just x. 2 minus x, we square it and come to the next part. Again, we refer to this formula here. This time you see the color change different because just now when the time have square root, I use the one in red. Now, this is not involved of the one with square roots. So I have the one in green. I have the one in green. The difference is that the arrangement of the 2mn. Just now I have the square together because these two terms is the term without square root. By the time I square the square root terms in this form here. So as a result, I have x equals to 4 minus x plus x squared. Gather all the terms to the left-hand side, minus x squared plus 5x minus 4 equals 0. Don't factorize at this form here because whenever you see your x squared is a negative coefficient, switch the sign. Negative, switch to positive, positive, switch to negative, and as a result, I will have x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. Factorize. We got two answers, x equals to 4, x equals to 1. And please check your answer. For square root, always check your answer. Although both of them is positive result, it's not necessary both of them is the correct answer that we want. So how we check the answer, guys and girls? Refer back to the original square root functions. We take the left-hand side, we take the right-hand side, substitute the x value that we have accordingly. The right-hand side is constant 5, so no matter what happens, it's always 5 for both of the x value. So we just focus on this part here, substitute 1 and 4 accordingly. I find out that x equals to 1, left and right is 5. X equals to 4, 7 and 5 is not equal. Therefore, my answer, I will reject X equals to 4. So this is solution for 2B. 2C, we have a long way to go for this solving these log equations here. So we want to solve this log equation here, guys and girls. We have 2 times log to the base 3x plus log to the base 3 x3 equals to 5. To solve log equations, always I want you to first refer to the base number. Are they happen to have the same base number? If they doesn't, can I convert into the same base number? And does it involve of base number with unknown? If they involve a base number with unknown, then we highly suspect that this is case that we can go for quadratic. Okay. Anyway, start with the equation that we have. If different base number, we begin with changing base usually. But in here, I would like to expand the 2 first. Then I would like to change the base. The changing base formula is that, let's say in this case here, from base x, I want to change to some number base. Let's say the number is b. So I have log base b, a on top, x below. So as a result, what I have is that this is the result that I can see. So from base x, I want to change to base 3. Then I have 3 on top, x below. Further simplify, by the law of log, we notice that if let's say you find out that the base of the log and the number inside the log is the same value, so we will have it equals to 1. So as a result, what we find out in this question here is that this part I highlighted in green is actually equals to 1. And further simplify, I have actually 2 log x base 3 plus 2 over log x base 3 equals to 5. Now we have both of them the same log. It's just that one on top in numerator, one below in denominator. Continue. Reach until here, we do substitution. Let's say I let u equals to the log terms. This will give me the result of the substitutions. Get rid of the u at the bottom. So let us multiply u on each of the terms. I have 2u squared plus 2 equals to 5u. This is a quadratic equation where we can solve and get the answer as 1 over 2 and also equal to 2. From this result here, we substitute back the u accordingly, which is log x base 3 for each one of them. For case 1, if I want to convert the answer in terms to x, refer back to this conversion here from log equation to become indices equation. The content inside the log maintain the same. The base of the log become the base of the indices term. The right-hand side n become the power. So as a result, I will have x equals to 3 power 1 over 2, which is square root of 3. Just leave it in square root of 3 will be good enough. Because the question never asks for decimal answer. They just ask to solve. Then x equals to 3 power of 2. X equals to 9. So there goes the solution for section B, question number 2. And now I suppose we have finally finished discuss all the questions. Start from chapter 7, 6, 2, and then 1. And therefore, I would like to end the class here today. Thanks for joining me for the class online here. Thank you very much. And here, I will end the live streaming now. Hope that it will be very helpful to you. Thank you very much and goodbye.